participants, 4 persons who will be addressing the first session. They are Dr. Bijoy Kumar Chaudhary, Dr. Ashwini Kumar, Dr. Monica Gupta, and Dr. Janice Leoshko. Without much ado, I'll request Dr. Bijoy Kumar Chaudhary, Executive Director, Bihar Heritage Development Society, to address the topic which has been given, which maybe you could, if you want, change. Bodhgaya, glory of the past and challenges of the present. Thank you.
The ancient and the sacred Pali literature talks about the land of Bodhgaya as the navel of the earth, the middlemost point of the earth. And it also regards the diamond throne, the Vajrasan, as the seat on which all the Buddhas achieved enlightenment. And Bodhgaya seems to have emerged as the focal point of the entire Buddhist world soon after. Now, I would like to make 2 points here. One, I am struck by the resilience of Bodhgaya. After a medieval interlude of, say, about 500, 600 years, Bodhgaya has again resurrected. And if you look at the antiquity of Bodhgaya from the 6th century BCE, what is the resilience of this site? So my prediction, based on the past of the Bodhgaya, that we are looking at a site which is going to survive maybe for another 1,000 years. In another 1,000 years, nothing is going to happen to Bodhgaya. So when we make a plan, future plan for Bodhgaya, it has not to be in terms of 100 or 200 years. We are looking at a very long-term perspective. The second observation, when I look at the ancient Bodhgaya and look at the modern Bodhgaya, is a basic difference between the two scenarios. During the first innings of Bodhgaya, it was a part of a landscape which was dotted with Buddhist settlements. In fact, on behalf of K.B. Jaiswal Institute, I and Dr. Abhishek Singh Amar, who is present here, we have authored a book called Archaeological Gazetteer of Gaya district, in which we have documented the antiquarian remains of 417 villages of Gaya district. And every third village of Gaya district seems to have Buddhist remains. Thank you very much.
Bijoy Chaudhary. It was very, very heartening that you had undertaken this survey for the archaeological treasures in not only Bodhgaya but also Nalanda, and so you have been active in linking up the present with the past. Now the next speaker is Professor Dr. Ashwini Kumar, Professor, School of Development Studies, Tata Institute of Social Sciences.
Truth is one, the wide speak of it in many ways. Raj speaks, almost in a Nietzschean tone, Gautam Buddha, arguably India's first public intellectual. Characterized by his ventures, a scholarly, conversational, and hypnotic quality of his discourses, Fire Sermon is Gautam Buddha's most daring, most insightful, and perhaps most provocative blazing hymn on human existence in particular, and the future of what I call spiritual politics. Monuments and memories, though often carry traces of the past, are entangled in the concepts of modernity, the nation, and history. To explore spiritual politics, as all of us know, Buddha's fire sermon, like the Buddha's discourses on the last days, are the most celebrated, historical event in the Buddhist literature and history, and anthologized in the great traditions of Buddhism. Buddha's fire sermon also reminds us to place the heritage of the past into the lived sociological imagination of the people of the region, and in a larger global setting of what I call emergent idea of vernacular cosmopolitanism. There is a sense here, many of us are cosmopolitans, but we are different kind of cosmopolitanism. We are vernacular, rooted here in Bodhgaya. So interrogating social memory of Buddha's fire sermon gives us opportunity to explore how multiple discourses of cultural heritage, contested identity of communities, violent agrarian conflicts, you can see the region here in the region, crime also in the region, have impacted the future of a non-violent and inclusive development in the region and beyond. Thank you very much.
I'm sure that many people have been extremely impressed by his recitation.
Recently, something has changed. And the change again is located in our socio-political times and the needs that we have felt over a period of time. I will just point out to some seed ideas. Two strands that were very dominant in the consciousness of academicians, and one was the way of the Buddha, and the second is the Sufi strand, acceptable to academicians. And why was that? So let me focus on Buddhism today and see what is it about the way of the Buddha that makes it acceptable to academicians. And what I found was that the first idea is the idea of compassion. In a world that is deeply iniquitous today, with all kinds of the fractured society that we live in, the power of a discourse that is not too complex and is based on a very simple central idea like compassion resonates with people. The whole idea that if the narrow pierces a being, the focus should be on healing the being rather than understanding the why and the wherefore of it, is also another powerful idea. The curriculums are too heavy, they are too externally imposed, they don't give us the time or the opportunity to be able to think original thinkers. I think we do need a lightness of the being which no longer exists in education. It's too heavy. And for that, I think the way of the Buddha, with its light, its cheer, its laughter, needs to make its way back into the curriculum. Thank you.
Now the next speaker is Dr. Janice Leoshko, Associate Professor, University of Texas.
Buddhism for many people is also important as a way to think about being alive, about the planet, and about being a citizen in this world. And it's that which 100 years ago was also important to Westerners who were becoming modern. That's the irony. Modernism in the West was born of people who were moving away from a very straight, narrow path called Western civilization. And the Buddhist tradition, as well as other traditions in South Asia, opened up ways for artists like T.S. Eliot, major painters and performers to understand ways to engage with the world. So that's what we're talking about again, and that's what has been performed for us very nicely here in several different ways, as well as yesterday with our plenary, or our keynote speech, which also acknowledged that we have to engage with the past. We have to look at it. But we have to not only study it, we have to study how we have been studying it. And that's rather what I'm emphasizing today as an art historian. Now there's also the whole discipline of trying to understand religion, of trying to understand others' religion, and that is also important. But I'm speaking here today about the much larger, important issue of how to live in a world that is challenged. And this is where sustainability can meet something like ideas of the Buddhist tradition. Not just to find enlightenment, but to find ways to engage with oneself as well as with the world. Thank you.